The title of this video isn't a lie. My face is completely deadpan when I say you shouldn't play this game. This game has been, and will continue to be for as long as I play it, one of the worst experiences of my life. I haven't beaten UnderRail, and that's what I'm going to call it for the rest of this video, because that's what this game really is. I've logged 160 hours in this game, and 3 separate restarts. Every time I restart, it's to make a better build, or to spend my resources differently, or whatever excuse I want to tell myself, but the reality is I'm just a raging gamer who wants the easy way out. It really feels like this satanic game was made to never be beaten, and any of the few times I do manage to make progress feel ultimately meaningless when the next fight is just a larger pile of the same bullshit I've already been through. I've played a lot of hard games, and they all come with difficulty curves. They're either really hard at the start, really hard at the end, or they spike at different times throughout the game to try and test me on what I've learned so far. Emphasis on most games, and for better or worse, UnderRail is the freckled ginger in this CRPG family. If the difficulty in RPGs is supposed to be curves and spikes, then UnderRail is a wall I can't climb. I can appreciate a world that's traveled, but this is a game that only hurts me the more I play it. I wish I could say I've gotten better at this game, but I haven't. I've really just gotten good at handling the pain. UnderRail holds no punches. Every combat encounter is a scripted death you have to find your way through. If you've played this game, then you already know. You're a walking corpse. You're a disposable ragdoll to the dev's creations, and you're about to get rid of the bullets, bite marks, and booby traps at the god of this world's whim. There are no companions to share the pain. There's no party to help you when you suck. There's no summon signs to save you from the boss. There's only the frustration you feel as your character gets mauled to death by the developers over and over again. Misery loves company, but the only company you get wants to eat your flesh. The only solace is at the end of the barrel I point at my own head. This isn't a user-friendly experience. If you like having your hand held, then please go find a different game. Now, if you like having a pair of 6-inch heels dug into your balls too, then keep watching, you masochistic fuck. Because I have a game that's going to satisfy your most perverse kinks and let you reload your save over and over to experience it again and again at no extra charge. Maybe you've managed to convince yourself there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that all the pain and suffering you're going through is going to pay off. Reality check, it's not. The only way you'll ever beat this game is by closing the application and uninstalling it. That's true victory, or as close as this game has let me feel. So why am I making this video? I hate this game. I hate it with a burning passion. But for all that hate, I've also realized something. I love this game too. For every time I've slammed my keyboard and quit out of rage, I've also come back, drooling and begging to be bruised and abused again. I don't know if this game has created a masochist, or if I was secretly a glutton for abuse all along, but I do know one thing. This game has touched me, and not because it's absurdly difficult, but because it is brutally honest. And while its message may seem ridiculous to many, it still remains a unique masterpiece. To someone who has aged like moldy Swiss cheese with video games and become irritatingly aware of their formulas and tropes, it is a breath of fresh, clean air. Yes, it may also be a painful slap across the face, several repeated slaps that never seem to stop, again and again, and where was I going with this? Right. No one, or at least most people, don't like getting slapped. It makes me angry, and that anger is this game's motivation. The pain will either break you or make you. So while this video may seem like a rant, or like I'm bitter about my experience with UnderRail, I'm not. I love UnderRail. In fact, I wouldn't change a damn thing about this game. I wish more games had the audacity to just break the player. I wish more games didn't give the player 100 solutions to their game and make them all viable. If you're going to choose a harder solution, then you're going to have a harder, if not impossible, time. So good luck trying to figure out the best character to make in this game. Character creation is the first of many ways this game shows you just how stupid you are. Well, I'm stubborn and up until a few days ago was convinced I wasn't stupid. I know how character creation is supposed to go. At the start, you choose what you're going to be. Maybe that's a puncher, a shooter, or even a magic user. Then you choose a stat that makes the most sense. In this game, however, there are only 2 types of stats. The ones you need but can never have, and the absolute dogshit ones that you think are going to be useful. Do you see these 3 social skills? Persuasion, Intimidation, and Mercantile? UnderRail took the speech stat from Fallout, broke it up into 3 different stats, and made all of them the worst stats in the game. If they were all put back together like in Fallout, I still wouldn't put a single point into them. On my first run, I didn't know this, and I put a ton of points into Persuasion. I had read several comments from people about how hard the combat was in this game, and thought maybe I could avoid half the shit they went through. And you know what happened the first time I got to use my Persuasion skill? I went into a room full of bandits who were going to kill me, and told them to take me to their boss. Well, I got what I wanted. I saw their boss alright, and then he put a gun in my head and executed me. Intimidation wasn't any better. The first time I used it, I ended up saving my assassination target's life, and my reward was not getting to loot his corpse. The only one of these you could even remotely argue for is Mercantile, but as I learned, making your items more valuable is useless when there is no one to buy them from you. Mercantile just makes the few items I can sell worth a little more, which is like getting a 5% senior discount from Dunkin' Donuts because you work there. Maybe you're a wizard who just happens to know which skills are good and which ones are bad. Well, that's the easy part. See, once you've learned what every skill does and doesn't do, then you have to learn which feats will power up your character. And some of these feats are so ridiculously strong that they break the game once you get them. The issue is knowing which ones are broken. And with how many there are, reading through them becomes a nightmare. Not that you would even know what you were reading anyway. I wanted to count and put a number of feats for this video, but frankly I've already spent more time than I ever wanted to on this stupid perk screen. And if you somehow know which feats to get, then you have to survive the game long enough to get them. These feats are UnderRail's way of just waving a carrot in front of your face while they ride you. By the time you manage to dungeon crawl your way through UnderRail, the game's found 10 new ways to break you, while you've only found one way to break it. Oh, and you better pray to God you allocate your stats perfectly and get the right feats, or else you're going to end up a save scumming, game restarting monkey like me. Choose one wrong feat because you think it's useful, and then you're suddenly 3 levels behind where you should be. And you'll never catch up to the enemies that live to torture you. And this game makes it way too easy to choose the wrong feat. There are so many obtuse feats that use the same stats you invest in, but are completely garbage and not useful at all to your build. When you level up, opening the feat screen doesn't feel rewarding, it just feels scary. You've got one chance to pick the right perk, but pick wrong and you ruin your entire character because you thought something was going to be useful. And even if you somehow survive the character creation and level up screen, you still have to tackle the enemies. And it would be so nice if these enemies were just sponges, if they just did an absurd amount of damage, if you only had to deal with a tough enemy every now and then. But no, it's every single fight. Every enemy and every encounter is so bizarrely unfair. Most enemies in the game have some debilitating form of crowd control that stops you from acting entirely. So if they use it on you even once, then just go ahead and take your hands off the keyboard. Or if you're like me, you can reload your save because you don't want to watch your character get ripped limb from limb for the 100th time. You know what's nice? Most games give your character some form of CC immunity or make it harder for you to be CC'd once you've been stunned in RPGs. Do you think this game has that? Oh, you bet it does. For the enemy, not for you. So while you may have 5 enemies that you can only stun once each, if they even stun you once, then you're guaranteed toast. Because it's not just one turn you lose every single turn as long as one of them casts a stun on you until you die. But what about the ones who don't stun you to death? I'm glad you asked person who has never and should never play this game. Guess what? They poison you, they one-shot you, and they suicide to kill you. The AI is programmed to do one thing and one thing only: kill you. They will actually walk through lava, poison, mines, any deterrent you can think of to get in range to kill you. And when they finally get in range, they will literally pull grenades out and kill themselves to catch you in the explosion. While this can be used to your advantage many times, most of the time it just means that if an enemy gets a turn to hit you, then you've probably already lost. Then you've got the environment. Every new area is an unknown and unseen amount of overstated enemies, invisible one-shotting traps, and environmental hazards that block your progression. You don't and you can't fight enemies head on. This forces every encounter to be a manipulation of pathing, abilities, and equipment to defeat the enemy before they can get a turn. And when you can't, then you have to leave. The only saving grace in this whole situation is this game's detailed map screen that lets you add notes to any area you've been to, helping you track hindrances, enemies, and locked loot. It's like your own personal album of every area that's bullied you, and oh look, you can write in your diary about how the invisible frag mines made you feel. To make up for how trash you are at killing enemies, the game bases the experience system off oddities, these items found everywhere and anywhere that reward your character with experience. I can't express enough how this changes how you play. Enemies in this game are disgustingly difficult and brutal, and instead of rewarding you for killing them, the game rewards you for simply looting. Every unlooted bin, locker, container, and corpse has potential to be experience, but also potential to be nothing. And experience is by far the most valuable currency in this game. Many RPGs break when early game characters bypass difficult enemies or areas and get the best loot before they're supposed to. Instead of restricting the player's freedom to avoid this, UnderRail rewards the exploration with experience. Oh, and also death. Lots and lots of death. This doesn't break the game, it simply makes it slightly more bearable. Instead of grinding low-level enemies for experience, you're trespassing areas of the map you shouldn't be in to get that final experience point you need to level up. You really become a certified dumpster diver in this game. And while you may smell like trash, and the game treats you like trash, you certainly don't feel like trash when you level up off putting your hand down the rubbish bin. If this experience system makes you a glorified garbage man, then the barter system in this game must be what it feels like to be a down-on-your-luck, door-to-door salesman. Every vendor is a picky house owner who doesn't want what you have no matter what you do. You could have the cure to cancer, but selling it in this game is impossible unless somebody explicitly wants it. My apartment is full of assault rifles, riot armor, advanced lasers, and electronic equipment, but nobody wants any of it. Sure, there is a universal currency, but more often than not, all my currency is in valuable items that no one wants to buy. Pristine snipers and armor that you don't have the stats to use, and that none of the greedy fucks around you want either. It's this terrible feeling of, I have great loot, but it's useless. I wish sometimes I had just never found it. Now I've got an inventory full of high dollar items, but no one wants them. I'm just walking from vendor to vendor, begging them to please buy something, anything off me. It reminds me of a story my friend told me about how he traded his PlayStation 3 for a PlayStation 4 because some schmuck wanted to play Destiny, but it hadn't come out yet on next gen. You like that schmuck, but worse. You need a PlayStation 3, but nobody even wants your PlayStation 4. It's humiliating. And by the time Destiny comes out for the PlayStation 4, you'll be a pile of bones and ash on the ground. And that's what I meant earlier when I said this mercantile skill was useless. It just makes the equipment you can't get rid of worth even more. If anything I've said about this game has piqued your interest, then you must be just as batshit crazy as me. I don't even know who I would recommend this game to. If you love the genre, then you're going to have all your expectations crushed and be filled with disappointment because it subverts every expectation. If you don't have any experience with CRPGs, then the game is going to be too clunky and foreign for you to enjoy. That's why as much as I love this game, I can't really recommend it to anyone. This game fills a niche that I didn't know existed and that maybe 1 in a million people actually want. But maybe, just like the best art pieces, its quality isn't in the number of people it's reached, but in the few that can appreciate it. UnderRail isn't a game you should play, but it's one I'm glad I did and that I'm going to do everything I can to beat. So in summary, if toxic abusive relationships aren't your thing, then you shouldn't play this game. And despite knowing that, I also know that I can't choose the ones I love, and I love UnderRail.